All right, I'll call the meeting to order and we'll get started, and then we can get started. In the room here, Tasha's myself, Michelle, Joel, and Darla.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right. Review the agenda for removal, adjustment of any items. Anything, Valerie?
Not that I know of, but I know that perhaps under department heads roundtable, we might get some updates on some substantive matters.
Ready?
May or may not need to be a future agenda item, or they can just be dealt with.
All right. Everybody should be familiar with the Zoom meeting operations at this time. Please ask to speak, raise your hand, or send a chat, and we'll try to keep an eye on that. Public forum, opportunity for citizens who are not on the agenda to briefly share concerns or comments. Anyone?
Hey.
Jimmy Q is here too, Tasha.
Thank you.
All right. Any concerns for public forum?
Maybe we're all back to normal.
All right.
Well, not totally,
You
but
guys all weathered the storm.
normal.
Everybody did well, kept us informed.
Department head roundtable.
If we could step back, Gary Kessler is asked for the,
All right, go ahead, Gary.
Hi, thank you very much for letting me attend this meeting. I'm sorry, I didn't see that I was on the agenda, and I just didn't know if I needed to speak up now, or it's for the Green Mountain stage race, or wait till later in the meeting. I just didn't, when I looked at the agenda, I didn't see that I was listed on there.
I don't believe I saw it either.
no, you're not on the agenda. Did I overlook that?
No,
We
I
did
thought you
speak in-
told him, next meeting. I thought I saw an email somewhere, Val, that you sent.
Keep it less than 5 minutes. you can do it.
Yeah, if you can do it in under 5 minutes, Gary, we can do it right now.
Okay, all right.
There you go.
All right, thank you very much for the opportunity. So after last year not having the race for obvious reasons, it does look like we'll be able to have the Green Mountain Stage Race this year, and I'm hoping that that we would be able again to come through Bristol on Sunday of Labor Day weekend. So it's the September 5th. And I know after the last event, there were some concerns expressed about Lower Notch Road, and I'm certainly open to other options like Carlstrom Road or Hewitt Road. But I just wanted to ask the board about the event coming through town again with any of those routes as possibilities, either the Notch Road or Hewitt Road or Carlstrom Road.
Gary, have you decided not to go back to the original route?
I would be happy to stay on the original route. I just, know that at least one person expressed some concerns. I don't know if there's still concerns. Again, that was several years ago now.
No, I thought you guys always came down 116 all the way through into Bristol. For some reason.
No, the original route was the Lower Notch Road and then down into town up South Street. And the reason that we come up South Street is because it's a really big hill. People end up going very slowly up there, and then they go very slowly through town. Well, if we come the long way, all the way on 116 and come through town, I think the racers end up going too quickly, and it's a safety issue. So I'd prefer to come up South Street.
We did have one individual last year that complained.
So 2 years ago, I think it
2
was.
years. Yeah, it wouldn't have been last year, would it? Because you didn't come through last year.
Right. First Labor Day weekend off in 20 years, so it was a little jarring, but anyway.
Bruce, any concerns on your end?
No, if they follow the same guidelines that they have in the past, no concerns.
What was the complaint about on Notch Road? Just too many cars?
No, it was.
Oh, I know who it was.
I would
know who it was.
prefer to keep it on Hewitt Road. If they had a
Come 116 to Hewitt.
to Hewitt. So
I mean, that's
it's a
at
little
least
wider.
paved.
It's paved. It's a
It's
little
not
I
wider.
mean, is there a reason you want to be on dirt, Gary?
No, it's just, it's become a tradition in the race, just to, come up that hill. We do have a a king and queen of the mountains up before they make the turn. So if we don't come that way, we won't offer that. There are a number of other places that they can earn some points for that. So it was just another place for people to suffer. That's all.
Well, I
climbing up that-
have a great hill for you. Have them go up Meehan Road, Davis Hill, and up Upper Meehan Road. They want a challenge.
I don't know if I know those roads. Where would I find them? Would they get me off 116 and into town, or?
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're on the farther end of town. They would be
Oh.
going up 17 already.
Okay, all right. Well, there you go. I know everybody likes a challenge on a long race, so that
So
would
you
be fun.
run the Notch Road and Lower Notch Road, so you.
Right, that's what we've
Two
done every
hills.
year.
Right.
Every year except one year. I think when the bridge was under construction there and down on South Street. Yep.
And Joel, what's your concern with the width of the road and the?
Well, the gravel, if it's graded or so or something, and bicycle accidents, they're very skilled bicyclists, it's not that.
Yeah, but they're also
I mean-
mostly road bikes, not,
Years
Dirt road
ago,
bikes.
before the 116 Sycamore Park Bridge was out, they came up 116 over here. Right, Gary? Not south.
That 1 year that bridge was out, we did go an alternative route. And again, I think the concern there was just the speed through town, and I just
Right, no,
want to
I'm
avoid
thinking,
problems. So.
when you first started, you came up 116, Hewitt Road up over South Street and turned right at the stoplight.
I think, well, it's hard for me to remember back. I know that the bridge on 116, was a 1-lane bridge that was light controlled for
That's why you
a
had to
very,
go
very
over
long
Notch.
time, which is what got us on Notch Road to begin with. Exactly
Right.
right. I can't remember how long ago, because it was closed for so long, how long ago that actually was a 1-lane bridge when that first started, but it seemed like it was a very long time. You all probably remember better than I do. But Hewitt Road would be fine, or Carlstrom Road is a dirt road once you get off 116. Is that,
right,
that's my
Carlson
recollection.
Road is dirt.
And I'd worry about the intersection of Carlstrom and Notch.
Okay.
Road.
Well,
Coming off
Hewitt
there,
Road,
that hill right there, cars coming down that hill.
Yeah, but it's not
Hewitt
gonna
Road
any
would be
worse coming
fine if
do it.
that's acceptable
Worst
to all
thing
of you.
is I think they should have I think you ought to have a traffic person at the bridge at Hewitt Road and one
Oh, we will.
Notch Road.
Notch Road.
Yeah, we always have
Any-
someone down at the bridge.
Any concerns with that route change, Bruce?
As long as they have appropriate people, I'm good with that.
And I mean, I would be
Avoids that one
looking
person's driveway.
to work with the town police department at the intersection. I don't know if that's, I know you guys are very busy and short-staffed. I don't know if that's something you think you can do or not.
We can discuss it, and we'll make arrangements to help you out.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Ian, any concerns on your end?
Nope, none.
Michelle?
Valerie, you want a motion on that or wait? till
Well,
it's on
I'm
next
just
week?
going around and get consensus if anybody has any
Oh, okay.
concerns. Michelle?
Garrett, just as long as they pick up the bottles at all the water stops, I'm happy.
we'll make sure that we have our volunteers down there and pick things up. Absolutely. And we'll
Sarah?
sweep the course after as well when we pick up the
Yeah.
signs.
Don't, you're good. All right. So yes, I'd entertain a motion, Joel.
I'll make a motion that we let Green Mountain Stage Race hold their race on the Saturday. of
September
Labor Day? September 5th?
Sunday, September
Sunday
5th.
the 5th.
Mhm.
Second.
The Stage race through Bristol.
Yeah,
As
second.
discussed and with talking with the police chief.
Further discussion?
I don't mean to be that person, but since it wasn't on your agenda, can you vote on it tonight?
Yes. we will.
Yes. The
Okay.
only thing we can't vote on is money issues brought up by select board members.
Okay, I
Now,
thought
do
you
we
couldn't,
need
but never mind then.
insurance?
Yes,
Yeah,
I will
the-
I'll get you a copy of the insurance
That's all I
policy, and the
Alright.
town will be a listed insured. And I'll also
Right.
get I'll get Valerie a copy of the approval form as well.
Thanks, Gary.
Further discussion?
I just want to point out that Gary and I talked on June 4th. And we did target tonight's agenda, but I never received anything. So it slipped off my radar because I never saw anything.
I apologize. I wasn't sure I had it on my agenda to be on tonight. So
All right. Awesome. Well, we dealt with it.
you
So
did. Thank you.
no further discussion. Hearing none, seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much for taking it so soon. And I look forward to seeing you in person, I hope, at at a future meeting rather than via this mechanism. Thank you.
Can you give me that date just
Right.
one last time?
It's
September
September 5th.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else for public forum? Department heads roundtable. We'll start with Brett this week, if you've got anything, Brett.
Thank you, Peter. The only update or item I'd like to report out on this evening is that we are currently going through the appointment process for two prospective recruits. I know Valerie and Ian both had an opportunity to meet these two young people at their interview a week ago, and we're just finalizing or finishing up background checks and reference checks, and with the goal of bringing these two candidates before you at your next select board meeting. And that is all I have.
Awesome, thanks. Bruce,
Nothing tonight.
and tonight. And Eric is on vacation.
Or just, he's not tuning in. The way we set it up for this agenda item is if folks didn't have anything to report, they didn't have to show up, or even if they did have something to report, that didn't necessarily need to be the only reason why they.
Right. But I just wanted to mention him if he was here and he had the opportunity. So,
Well, I'm gonna jump in
Although I
because
can
got-
say a few things on his behalf. He reported that the crosswalk signs will be going up soon. And that crosswalk painting, he was hoping to get it done this week, but he's unsure about the weather. The high humidity and rain, of course, doesn't let the paint dry. So he's waiting for a break in good weather conditions to do the crosswalks. And he also asked a question about the Bill James Parade. He's wondering if it would be okay if spouses accompanied them in town vehicles on that Saturday, just for that short term of the parade. To fill the vehicles so that there's people waving.
yeah. The current policy is no non-town employees.
That's why he wanted to ask.
Right, right. Well, I appreciate him asking rather than just doing it, to give us the option to say yay or nay. What's your pleasure? Concerns?
I can't imagine they're gonna be driving too.
Yeah.
It's a slow-moving parade. Yeah, not for that one.
Ian, any concerns?
I can't think of any.
So this is a one-time deal for him.
On a weekend, just a couple hours.
Okay,
The only thing I have, I talked to Eric today, and he said that they cut down all the trees that were marked with the exception of 2 on Meehan Road. They forgot. He said they will be back to take them down and do the stump grinding, but he didn't tell me when.
Right.
For the crosswalks, can we make sure, or let me ask, do the ones at the Parmelo area by the bank and by Cubbers and on the other side, do we stripe those or does Parmelo stripe those?
I
You
believe
mean on the driveways?
those are property, private property.
But I've seen, we've striped them in the past, and so I'm just curious. There's never been a definite, like, we do it or they do it, so I was just curious.
Oh, maybe
Ian,
I
you're
don't
talking
know.
about between the roadway, between the little driveways into Pomerlo's?
Yes,
I don't know. We'll have to find out.
I mean, boy, that's probably part of the sidewalk right away. I bet you.
right.
Doesn't Eric do those now? I think he might do those.
We'll
I'm
find
not
out.
sure.
It
Yeah.
is in the public, in that area, it is in the right of way.
Yeah, it's not,
Right.
it's not on private property, so.
Right. Yeah, I'd like to make sure that those get done. I don't know if he waits for Parmelo to do it, but I would say if it's in our right of way that we should do it. Just because they get worn and they're highly used.
Mhm.
And Valerie, also, the 2 over on Pine Street by Mountain Health, a lot of employees over there now, between Mountain Health and the bakery, wholesale.
That's not a legal crosswalk.
Which one?
The one,
They're on the south side, they're legal, it's Trophy Dome to the south, the north side to the parking area. is not.
so I don't know, I'm not sure if we still paint that one or not. I know there was some. I'm not sure
Discussion.
exactly, yeah, discussion about liability for painting a crosswalk that
Wasn't proper.
Hmm.
I mean, didn't we have that issue with the creamy stand? That's why we had
Yeah,
to move it
we had to move it. Well, we had to move it because it
for other
couldn't.
reasons.
Didn't we put one piece of concrete on that side of the road, the truncated
Right.
down to nothing, the sidewalk to nothing?
Mhm.
Nowhere.
Yeah, we did. All right, we set with Eric? Oh, I know, I knew she had something, that's why I saved her for last. Meredith?
All
You're
right.
on.
Yes, I do have a couple things. We had our townwide yard sale. It was amazing. We had over 33 households sign up for it, and that money went to our scholarship fund, which was great. We made a little over $450 for that program. And we also had our teddy bear picnic, and that was a success as well. So that was pretty cool. We're going to July. July is really busy for us. You know, we're running camps, but we also have a music series. We have Star Wars playing on July 22nd with the 501st Legion showing up. We've got Vermont Suitcase coming in to do a theater group. The Very Merry theater group is coming in as well in July. So we've got a pretty busy July. And here's my question. I'm wondering, jumping ahead to September for Bristol Harvest Fest. We've taken a look at our park structure and we are curious. We stated that we have the vendors on West Street, and we're hoping that we can actually put them on Park Street. So the vendor window is facing the park. What's happening is when we looked at who the vendors were, it's 10 by 10 tents, and there's a step down off of the park into the parking lot. So people who would get food off of that West Street would actually be really tall and higher up onto above ground of where the tents would be set up or where the tables would be set. So they would kind of be breathing down on the food that the vendors would be selling. So that's kind of gross. So we were wondering if we could flip flop it and put those food vendors on the Park Street and not close the street. They're just right there on the edge of the park. So that was my
They would,
view.
they would be set up on the park itself,
On the
or
pavement.
they would be set up behind, in the parking spaces and,
On the pavement, but the food is being bought and handed out from the park. So the back of the house is the parking space. So no
so
one.
all we're doing is, all you're looking to do is to close off the parking, not close the street.
Yep, that's right. Maybe like six spots. Sorry, it sounds confusing. I do have a map, but it's not very.
No, it doesn't
No.
sound confusing. I'm just trying to get clarification.
And I was trying to figure out, you said they would be breathing down, but aren't all of the food carts on wheels? So wouldn't they be level, aren't all the food carts on wheels, Meredith? Wouldn't they be level with the curbing?
No, two of them are 10 by 10 tents.
Oh, okay,
So it's
okay.
yeah, it's kind of a step down. So
I guess I heard you say that, but I missed that.
sorry. Yeah, I went right from July right into September. So that would just be if you guys would be gracious and say that sounds like a great idea. Let's.
It's really no different than
It's
cutting.
probably safer.
Right, you're not blocking off the parking spots in the front, you're gonna block them off in the back, which is probably even better. It's like
You taking the same amount of parking? Are you taking the same amount of parking spots?
Yeah, pretty much. So, you know, we had in mind 6, and those parking spots on Park Street are angled.
Right.
So it's just safer and cleaner this way.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
You know, they don't have an issue with that.
Don't-
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with
I
that.
wouldn't even.
And that's the way we used to do
Once
it.
upon a time, we did it that way.
Way back in the day.
I wouldn't even entertain if they just shut Park Street down for the day, but I want to make sure they get traffic, to the gym, and those tenants.
Yeah. I don't see a need to shut it down
No.
if they're gonna have their tents there, and it's just, you're gonna have to block your parking spots off early so you don't lose them.
Yep.
That's
I
all.
suggested the night before.
Darla's, yeah, you probably heard her. She's suggesting the night before to block off your spaces, so.
And Bruce is great. He's got some nice signage that'll scare people away.
Bruce is great. You're right.
Please do not.
Move it or lose it, right?
Thank you so
Okay.
much. That's really what I have on
Do-
my end.
Val, do we need a motion to flop that, or is it consensus good enough for that one?
I think the consensus is good enough.
All right. Then you have our blessing, Meredith. Anything else?
No,
Does Taylor have something to add?
Yes. Yeah, so just I wanted to update you guys because we the rec department and the hub and the library were the recipients of one of the Summer Matters grants that the state just released. So we were given $25,800 in a reimbursement grant. And so that's partnering with the rec department and the library. So with that money, the rec department is working with the library to help them fund 2 weeks of camp at the end of the summer. That's going to be free to all attendees. And then it's also paying for our part-time staff that we're bringing on. So for the hub to support drop-in hours. So Alex and I don't totally blow through our 40 hours every week. And to support the part-time staff we have working at camps. And as it's also being spent to pay for trips. And so to rent a bus this summer, which is really exciting. So we were really, I think it's definitely the largest grant that I've ever written and gotten. And it's one of the more competitive ones that we've ever received. So it was pretty great to receive. I want to give you guys an update.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Awesome. Nice
And
job.
Good work.
And I don't know if you heard, but you got a shout out from the board a couple weeks ago about your radio time with,
Your radio personality.
yes. with
I did hear,
92.1.
thank you so much. Yeah, Bruce Zeman at WVTK is absolutely phenomenal. And I have the pleasure of getting to go on once a month and talk about the hub. And he's fantastic. As soon as we feel comfortable really opening up, he's really excited to come and do some volunteer work, do some stuff at the hub. He's really cool.
Well, good. Free
Great.
PR is always good.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And so that's all I had, just good stuff.
Great.
Awesome.
Thanks, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you.
Did I forget anybody? All right, we will move on. Regular business. Maple Broadband, Addison County Communication Union District. Steve, you are up.
Thank you. Can we do a screen share, or I can go without that if it's a problem for you folks?
No, I'll make you a co-host. Let's see.
Yeah. If we had Ian here, we could have it up on the big TV where we could all see.
If I had my
Oh, you had your
I
cable?
just didn't have my cable.
You can't stick things.
No, I don't have it right.
Can you see
So
it?
do we have a big old picture of a bridge on the screen there?
Yes.
Excellent. Well, thanks all for your time here and to give you an opportunity to learn a little bit about what's been going on with Maple Broadband since we got started in the latter part of last year. My name is Steve Huffaker. I'm the chair of Maple Broadband. And you are among the very last of select boards that I am delivering this presentation to. We've been doing a roadshow, if you will, getting everybody up to speed on what we've been doing. You'll be more informed than most because we're farther along than when I was doing presentations back in March. The objective today is to tell you a little bit about our organization. And again, you backed us early on, but I'm going to kind of walk you through that just to remind you of what we're doing. So we're a communications union district. We were established through the state of Vermont, and we have a very, very simple charter, which is to deliver broadband service to every address in our member towns. Key for you is that last bullet on the screen, which is that we are not allowed to tax town residents for funding. So we have a lot of work to do, and it's going to be quite expensive, but we're not going to be looking to the taxpayers to carry the burden. That's more falls on the volunteers that work for Maple Broadband. This is kind of the basic story why we have been established. There's a lot of folks in the state that do not have good broadband. Many have poor broadband. as a result of that, the state established in 2019 an act that basically allowed individual counties to seek funds to establish the feasibility of a CUD, and then at such time as that's established, then also to proceed with a business plan. Key again on the bottom of that slide is our model prioritized reaching underserved addresses first. So the easy part is for people, say in Bristol, that basically are in a densely populated area where it's pretty cost effective for the for-profit telecommunications provider to deliver service to those densely populated areas and do it cost effectively. But out there in the rural areas, that's a little bit of a slog, and that's really where we're focusing our attention. We started out with about 16 member towns, and we have just say in about 6 weeks ago, we picked up the final 2 towns in our territory here. Addison and Virgins joined very, very recently. Governance is the key part here. Basically, we're all volunteers. We do not have any employees, and if we do our job the way we expect to do it, we're not going to have any employees. Basically, our job is to run the ship and get others to do the work that needs to be done. And we're based on two parts. We have an executive committee, which is composed of 5 voting members. And then 2 other folks that are members, but they do not have a vote. We meet on a weekly basis, and again, we're all volunteers. You could say that the executive committee is the group that's really doing the heavy lifting. The governing board, which is one delegate per member town, and every member town delegate has 1 vote, and we meet with the governing board once a month. Tell them what we've been doing and what we intend to do, and then we seek their blessing. So the objective here is, again, we're a municipal entity, and so we have to behave in as transparent a fashion as the town of Bristol has to. We have to do everything in an open fashion. Funding sources to date, kind of depressing to look at this, because really the funds that you see there at the top are the only funds that we have to date, and they all came up latter part of last year. The Broadband Innovation Grant is the grant that established the feasibility study that I'll tell you a little bit about in a minute. And when we're ready to launch a business plan, that will also pay for that. Then the CARES Act, which I'm sure you're all aware of, as it relates to the COVID-19 challenges we had, especially last year, and the CARES Act provided significant funds that essentially we used to stand up our organization and do some of the tasks that are listed at the bottom of that slide. Things like setting up a website, paying for back office support through the Addison County Regional Planning Commission, some other marketing type activities, establishing some errors and omissions assurance on the part for the executive committee, legal engagement in particular to ensure that we're compliant with all the state of Vermont acts that we need to comply with, and a number of other activities that we engaged in to help the communities cope with COVID-19. I've updated this slide a number of times, but it's pretty important, and it's just got updated before meeting with you. Gotten a lot done in 2021. We started out, basically our objective here is to proceed as quickly as possible as we can to build fiber network serving our member towns. And to that end, we first had to figure out what the landscape looked like. So we interviewed fiber and infrastructure design engineering firms, looked into potential operating partners. We began discussions with operating partners. We issued a pre-construction RFP, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a minute. We also awarded a pre-construction bid about 2 weeks ago, and we are just in the earliest stages, say a week into pre-construction tasks, and I can tell you a little bit more about that in another slide or two. We are also very close to having an operating agreement in hand, and at such time as we have an operating agreement, that will also trigger a release of our business plan. Essentially, those two tasks, the operating agreement and the business plan, are kind of linked because the business plan is intended to reflect the nature of the relationship with the network operator. And we'll expect to be using that business plan to communicate to potential investors on the viability of our operation. Then we have pre-construction tasks, which are pretty much going to consume the entirety of the balance of this year, plus a little bit of the following year in 2021. And then our expectation is, if everything goes as well as it has thus far, we will begin construction in 2022, continuing through 2023, at which point we're targeting to complete 300+ miles of fiber network. Now, the estimate on the amount of fiber in our member towns might leave us a little short of our final goal, but it's going to get us in good shape, and it also will result in some access to municipal bond market, and that really is going to help us not have to deal with the state of Vermont grants, which can be a headache. We have applied for several USDA grants, Vermont Community Foundation SERV grant, public service grant. We have approached Bristol, and we also approached Middlebury about community development block grant funds. We haven't pushed too hard on that with you because of all the ARPA funds that are raining down from above. And at the bottom of that slide, you can see American Rescue Plan, which I'll be asking you to help us with from some of those funds. A lot has changed. This slide has changed a lot too. It looked a lot different when we first had a pretty good handle on the American Rescue Plan Act, and now we have less of a handle maybe. So originally, and I'm probably telling you what you already know, there was a segment of funds that are directed directly to towns, and then there's another portion of federal funds that are directed to counties, which don't effectively exist in Vermont. And so at the time I was speaking to towns a month ago, I was combining the county and town funds, and when I was asking for money, but now we don't know what's happening with that 7.1 million. I guess my understanding is that our governor and our legislators are talking with Washington in hopes that they can see their way clear to address that issue. We also don't know exactly how the funds are going to be allocated among the CUDs, including Maple Broadband, nor do we know when. What is known, H360, which is the act that has been approved and signed by the governor maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, targets 150 million to broadband development. That's it's not dedicated exclusively to the CUDs. There's also a new broadband authority that needs to be established, and some of that money is going to go towards that. And then we also understand that next year, more funds will be made available again as a result of ARPA. And then the other part, again, which I imagine you know, is that half the funds are being distributed now. My slide originally said May or June, but here we are in June, and I think the town funds, I believe you may well have in hand already. And then a year from now, the balance of those funds will be distributed. And of that 3.6 million that is out there, we're estimating that you've got probably $380,000. Construction. This is the interesting stuff. This is the part where I specialize, so it's much more interesting to me than some of the earlier stuff. Pre-construction, there's a short story about pre-construction that might help you understand what our challenge here is. If you think about a company like Verizon that decided that they wanted to deliver cell service to subscribers all over the country, they couldn't do that initially because they needed to build a whole bunch of cell towers. So over the span of a number of years, all they did is build cell towers. At that time, they were making little, if any, money because they were just spending. And that's essentially our challenge here. We have pre-construction tasks, which again have a considerable cost, and there's no revenue component to it because all we're doing is trying to get a handle on the environment, the landscape in our member towns, so that we can create a design that is valid and implementable, and that we can also create a set of construction bid documents that will engage a contractor who will build the infrastructure. All those things are tasks that we need to undertake that cost money but don't yield any income. So that's the $1 million challenge right there, and literally it's a lot more than just $1 million. Once we've completed that pre-construction work, that's when we actually begin to pull fiber, and that's significantly more expensive. But the upside to it is that as we build out, we start connecting subscribers, which generates revenue and starts paying our debt. So that's kind of the fun part, really. But as it stands today, these pre-construction tasks you see there, that's largely what you'll see us doing this year. And that pole make ready task, the bottom bullet there, that's work that we hope to start doing, say, at the early part of next year. And I'm happy to expand on any of these pre-construction tasks if you're interested. At a high level, we estimate those first three tasks, high level design, pole survey, and detailed design, will cost us about $1 million. And then the pole make ready work, we're estimating is going to be at about a $4.5 million ticket. So if we divided this up on a per capita basis, we estimate that your share of those pre-construction costs, the first three steps, are about $60,000, and for that pole make ready work, we estimate that your share would be about $230,000. So using my handy spreadsheet, I estimated that it would be nice if you could contribute $150,000 now from our American Rescue Plan funds, and that's based on an assumption that your first tranche, which you may have already received, is about $190,000. But I also need to caveat that, which is that broadband's not your only challenge. You've got lots to do, and I'm myopic. I have my blinders on, so I'm acknowledging the fact that you may have lots of places that you can make good use of the ARPA funds you're receiving. We're only hoping that you consider the benefit that it will yield for the community at large. These statistics, we got that first statistic, which is a great one, came from a Purdue study. It said that every dollar invested in broadband returns $4 to the local economy. Some of these other bullets basically expand on what you probably intuitively already know about some of the benefits that are attributed to broadband deployment. I think from my personal perspective, I see a lot of cases where people have moved from out of state into our area because they see the value in living in Vermont, but their caveat whenever they're talking to their realtors are, I've got to be someplace where I can connect. I need broadband. I don't want to live out in the sticks because I can't do my job. So we see this as a long-term means of promoting the growth of economic growth and people growth of our state. Rising tide lifts all boats. That's basically why we want to talk to you about it. It's not just going to benefit Bristol, it's going to benefit Addison County, and I guess more broadly than that, it's also, since there's 8 other CUDs working their magic in other portions of the state, and we're all working, with volunteers, just like Maple Broadband is, and with an end game, hopefully to complete our tasks. Certainly it'll be less than 10 years. It might be 4 or 5 years, depending on the capital structure for our operation. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?
I do. Steve, so you talked about, I think one of the emails I saw was the direction going and working with a private entity. Maybe Green Mountain, sorry, what do we got now? My mind is gone.
Champlain Valley Telecom.
Yes, or yeah, or their whatever the other name is. Green Mountain Access. Thank you. There we go. So is that the direction that you're heading in terms of being able to develop this?
We are currently in negotiations with a network operator, and it's just negotiations. And we've been trying diligently to keep the identity of that operator out of the news until we actually have something to show for ourselves. So I'm afraid I can't give you a straight answer there.
No, that's totally fine. I mean, it seemed like that was one of the emails I saw it seemed like the direction to head out of the other options that the group had looked at. Was sort of was to secure an already operating company that has developed the stuff to be able to partner with.
Right, and to kind of give you some background on that, some of the slides that we originally used that weren't included in this presentation was that we had engaged a consultant to perform a feasibility study to identify whether or not we could effectively do what we want to do, and they came back and provided 2 key caveats to our success. And one was that we needed to find a network operator in the region. And the other one was that, which would be or actually and plus. So either we do one, identify a local operator, or team up with another CUD in the region. And so we can expand our footprint. And basically what we concluded was, footprint expansion seems like a good idea, but it really doesn't get us internet. So we essentially said, this is foundational. We're going to have to, first of all, get a network operator. What's the point of pulling all this fiber in the utility poles if we don't have anybody to connect to that'll be able to deliver that internet? So that's kind of why we've got our currently narrow focus in that approach.
Okay.
It's kind of limited. There's only 2 or 3 in the area, so it's got to be one of them.
Well, you know, you're on the select board. You're smart people. I'm sure you can figure it out. With any luck, I mean, to be honest with you, we're close. We're very close, and I would say probably within about 2 weeks we'll have an agreement in principle with the operator. The challenge there is, I think, probably in the interest of being nervous about protecting this properly, we're probably not going to want to make it public until we actually hand off that agreement in principle to the lawyers, and you know what happens then. It could take a while.
That's great. I appreciate the effort, Steve. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
If I could jump in, to let folks know, the local allocation, the municipal allocation that Bristol can look forward to is a total of $402,000 over 2 years. So half and half, 201 one year, 201 another. We don't know what the county allocation is going to be. We know that the town of Bristol has a pretty long list of possibilities for use of that money. And members of the community may have other things to add to that list. And at some point, when we have a better handle on the program and the timing and the total money we're talking about, the select board will be reaching out to the community to share with them their ideas, their priorities for use of the money, and get public feedback. I'm not exactly sure when that will happen, but it would be useful when you get to a point, maybe you already are and it's shown in your presentation, but I think for Maple Broadband to actually be on the list, it would be good to have something, a proposal that we can have in hand to measure against the other things that are on the list.
Great idea, Valerie. That's the first I'd heard of that one, but it makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, especially as you said, there's a lot of interest and a lot of worthwhile work that you could do. And so I think it's going to be a real challenge for you folks to figure it out. But certainly, that's a great suggestion, and that would be one that we can implement more broadly to all our member towns. So thanks a lot for that suggestion. Yeah, just to kind of at a high level, one of the other comments that I received from another select board was that the suggestion that I understand was provided by the VLCT, and I'm not sure that was the source, but I believe it sounded like it was, that towns might want to wait until they see how much money the CUDs receive. And so to give you a sense of the scope of the work that we have to do, the bill of our member towns is going to cost us between $20 and $30 million. So you can't give us too much money. We've got a lot of work to do. So basically my expectation is, first of all, we're going to have to feed the beast for a while. We're going to have to do all this non-rewarding pre-construction work first. I'm sure we can get grant that. Then we're going to have to, there'll be money left over from the state. So I'm sure they'll help fund some of our early build work. So I think that that's great news as well. But of course, with a build cost like that, that's not going to be enough. And then we're hearing about the infrastructure bill that might be coming through from Washington. Certainly can't bank on that. Our longer term plan is that because it's very critical that we maintain a nonprofit status, which is what we have now as we have been established by the state. And because of that, we can go to the municipal bond market for really favorable rates. So once the grant money and donations have run out, we'll still be needing a lot more money. And we will then be going out to the markets to borrow money to continue the work until we've completed it. So to help you understand that, again, you really, the big challenge that I'm concerned about is that the more grant money or donated money received, the less money we're going to have to borrow, which ultimately means the fees, the rates for the subscriber services will drop as our overall cost for the bill goes down. So I would encourage you to take that into account when you're doing your evaluations.
Any other questions for Steve?
Yeah, I got a couple, Steve. You were here months ago, and it seems like months ago now, and someone else in your group said that Bristol actually was in pretty good shape. I want to say somewhere about 80 to 85% of broadband was very well here.
Yep.
And to look at this, is this 150,000 projected? Is that half the bite of the apple? In another year, you come back and ask for another bite of the apple? And the third question is, what if a third of the towns of the 18 or 17 in Madison County that enable broadband decide to, nah, this is not the way we want to spend it some else infrastructure thing in their town, and you don't raise that kind of funds? I mean, who thought back in the 60s when they reformed school districts, union school districts, now you can vote to get yourself back out of that union district and the obligations? I guess I'll stop at those questions.
I'm not sure I got all your questions, but let me take a crack at it. Maybe if you could break it down for me, that would maybe help a little bit.
Okay, and the first one was when you reported months ago that we were 80 to 85% well off here in Bristol with broadband service.
Yep.
Residents.
Yeah, and that's pretty accurate. And again, I think that I'll give you a parallel example. Virgin's joined. Virgin's has even better served than Bristol is. Why did they join? Well, they see well, I'll tell you why I think they joined. I mean, I did a presentation to them at which time they decided to join us, but they see the value in what we're trying to accomplish. And I think they probably see that adage, a rising tide lifts all boats. They see that as beneficial, not exclusively to them, but to the entire community. and a good move. And maybe to part of answer to your next question is that the cost to you, the cost to Bristol is zero. We're never, I mean, if you want to raise a bond issue to help pay for us, we would love it. But basically, you don't have any downside to this. If you decide you didn't want to participate, it just means you're not going to be, you know, we may not be billing out to you or something like that. But ultimately, there is no downside risk here because there's no cost to the towns when they join.
Question 2, Joel.
Okay, the last one was, you said they had all the towns in the Union Maple Broadband District. And my quote was, we never thought Union School District, you could vote to get out of a town, get out of it. What if some towns say this is not the way we want to go, and you can't make this fly, so to speak, if 3 or 4 towns decide to leave?
Well, I'll give you kind of a roundabout answer to that. First of all, again, since there's really no negative consequence to your being a member of a member town, it would be difficult for me to understand why you choose not to be a member. But I think most importantly, you have to understand who you're talking to. I'm a volunteer. All the people I work with are volunteers. We all live in Addison County. And we have one job to do, which is to deliver broadband service to every single address in our member towns.
Steve, I support you guys, what you're doing, and volunteer and meeting once a week. God bless you. But, you know, we all live and watch for our neighbors to the north, just outside of Vermont, there in Burlington, the city of Burlington, go through a Burlington Telecom and spend money like a drunken sailor, and then had to sell it for pennies on the dollar. I'm not saying that's going to happen here, but I want to make sure that, you know, you said it's not going to cost Bristol, but you gave us a quote or an idea of 150,000 first thing of that, this rescue money. That rescue money is coming to us for a lot of projects, as Valerie said, and we haven't even dove into it yet. You know, started.
We don't even have it yet.
We don't even have a plan yet, or even the money.
CUDs were created as a direct result of what happened with Burlington Tel. And so the structure for the CUDs was created so as to never have that happen again. And so to make it clear, if we went belly up and we failed to do what we need to do, you aren't suffering the consequences of it because you didn't put any money into it. You donated some money. So I guess that part you've lost. But other than that, there's really no downside. So from our perspective, I mean, the way we're structured is we build what we can afford. When we borrow money, we're on long-term 30-year notes that we're probably going to be actually 28, somewhere between 12 and 28-year notes through the municipal market. And they're the ones that are going to suffer the consequences if we fail to do what we need to do. But they have all these assets that we've built out that somebody else can connect to. So again, I think that I would argue that you're not going to, if we fail in some way to do what we're doing, you don't really suffer the consequences.
Okay, thank you.
Steve, I have a quick question. You said Bristol is 85%. Is Bristol 85% just in the village, or you're talking about the whole town?
I took that statistic from a Vermont Department of Public Service survey that they perform. They're supposed to perform once a year. Okay. And they collect that information from, this is the depressing part, but they collect this information from the providers that deliver service to the communities. So it's self-reported. So for example, you're in WCVT territory. WCVT is the party that reported that you have 85% of you are connected. So I can't say with great assurance that that's good information, but I trust WCVT. They're a good organization, so I think they're giving us good information. Does that answer?
I would still like to see it change the name to, we do the last mile first. You know, we've heard it from about 4 governors, we're going to broadband the last mile of Vermont, and I'd like to start at the last mile and work in instead of going to work out.
There is some merit there, there is some merit to that, but yeah, the overall approach is we build the backbone cables. And then as we add subscribers, we take splices off of that backbone cable and extend it to the individual premise.
Perfect. Just don't bury it in Bruce's backyard.
Okay, I'll make a note.
Sorry, Bruce, I couldn't resist. Anything else? All right. Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for your time.
Continued consideration of land transaction with Stoney Hill Properties LLC to form Firehouse Apartments. Evan North, review of proposal quick claim deed and review of section 1061 notice.
So online, we're posted a draft of the quitclaim deed from the town to Stoney Hill for the 5.8 acres to support the Firehouse Apartments project. Also online was a draft 1061 notice to give Bristol voters 30 days, an opportunity, a 30-day opportunity to submit a petition of 5% of registered voters objecting to the proposed transaction and calling for a special town meeting on the question. So I think because the draft quitclaim deed is still in flux, different versions have been going back and forth as of this afternoon. I don't think we're ready to finalize it. But this is an opportunity to hear from Samantha and also to hear feedback from the select board that can be reflected in a final copy.
Samantha, you.
I'm here. I don't have a lot to add. I'm mostly here to be able to answer questions. Valerie's been doing a terrific job. I think we're a little bit together behind the scenes trying to herd the cats of attorneys at this point, and we're doing that, and it takes time. So I think we were hoping to come to you with something final, and when you give attorneys this date, this is the date that it becomes final. So I think that the attorneys got there, but not in time for Valerie to get that material in front of you. So again, happy to answer any questions about the process. I think any changes that are made to what you've seen are not substantive. They're, people like to say things in different ways. And that's what's being worked out right now. So I don't have any concerns about being able to reach agreement, and it would be really helpful if we could hear tonight from the select board about any questions or concerns, so those could be incorporated into the final as opposed to waiting for another 2 weeks, because I think what you do have in front of you is very close.
Right, I would agree with that. And this 1061 notice, as I mentioned, provides a 30-day window for all of us to review the documents and come to a final version that everybody's happy with. After that 30-day notice, then a closing could occur if no petition had been submitted. I'm not aware of any instance in these 1061 notices where petitions have been submitted. So I'd be quite surprised if that did happen. So we would be talking about early August. And as I noted in my report, that Firehouse Apartments is scheduled to go before the Development Review Board in early August. So it would be really important for them, for the closing to occur prior to that, so that they can be the landowner and applicant.
The only question I have, and I apologize, I haven't read the document, is in the event that this didn't happen, in the event that the apartments didn't end up being built, I'm thinking that maybe we ought to have the ability to have the land transfer null and void.
Interesting.
just, you know, and I fully expect this to go. I don't have any reason why it wouldn't, but it changes the density of that piece of property, and there might be something down the road that we might need that for in the same line.
We don't want to give it anybody else.
Right.
Something different.
I mean, should it not fly? Like I said, I fully expect it to, but should it not fly?
It
And
reverts back to the town.
yeah, it reverts back to the town.
And that could be something that could be put right into the deed too. The other thing I saw about, or I didn't see in there was, that there be no construction on that property, no buildings, no construction, or anything like that. I mean, I saw where we retained our rights to access it and maintain and the trails, but I didn't see anything that said there would be no construction allowed. Which, as my understanding is, they aren't going to, but.
Well, they can't, yeah. Who knows with technology? Right now, they can't.
Right.
You wouldn't want to step out the back door.
Come on, they build on the land.
Yeah, I know, I know.
And then they move their house to the city. And I didn't have a problem with the 1061.
It's teed up to be published in this week's paper after tonight's meeting, if there are no substantive changes.
Any other questions?
The deed doesn't have to be just the 1061 notice, right?
Right, right. Yeah, we have time to finalize the deed
Yeah.
through July. Of course, sooner the
If
better.
I'll bring up the same thing I brought up months ago. We talked with Kevin and Samantha, that this increases that. I realized it gets affordable to build now when it gets up to 20 units instead of 15. So you're adding 25% more, and without any, I realize that land isn't worth a lot, but it does a lot for Evan North and for the adding 25% more apartments there. And I think there's a cost value there, that 5 acres, even though it's holding the earth together right now. But you can increase your sewage by adding that land. And I believe there's a value to that. And you know, even if 5 more apartments and 1 more kid there, you do the math, and that's about $85,000 a year that it'll cost the school system here in Bristol for those 5 more apartments. I don't oppose the 5 more apartments, but I believe there's a cost that should be paid to the town for that 5 extra acres.
Anyone else? Darla, anything?
Just my thought to what Joel just said, is that I believe that there's so many benefits that we'll see, and knowing that the housing crunch that we have right now, and that Bristol has no available affordable housing or mixed use housing like that. I don't see a problem with going forward as we are.
Well, I think, I don't blame Joel for bringing his opinion forward again. I think, like he said, he brought this up early on, and we all agreed to move forward, and I commend him for being true to his word and bringing it up again. But I think that we're inclined to move forward.
I agree.
Is there anything we need to do tonight, Valerie, other than allow that to be published?
I think this consensus is helpful. At some point, I think we would want to finalize the deed. But
Well, we can't finalize the deed until we know what it is.
exactly. So that's not tonight. But yeah, this consensus to keep moving forward is useful.
And Joel's concerns are duly noted. I mean,
And just,
I have the same concerns, but I also agree with Darla that I think that in the long run, the benefits will outweigh the ability to receive any money for that land.
and just to circle back on something that was raised in the admin report about access to the lower lot 2, that the terrain, yes, there's access from Cold Spring Road off of Lover's Lane to that part of the property, but it might be difficult to access more northerly. And there was concern about whether by separating this 5.8 acre, whether the lot 2 would lose access. But as long, if, from my perspective, and I think Ben Stetman agreed, that as long as the town continues to have deeded or easement or access rights to the upper part, then they automatically have access to that lot 2.
Yeah, I didn't necessarily see that as a big concern.
Right.
Well, we can also get it from.
Yeah. It's just up instead of down.
Right.
That's all. But I don't see any reason for us to have to do, if we have to do anything there, I think it's going to be down closer to the river, and Cold Springs, it's fairly flat going in that way.
Okay. All right, good.
So are we ready to move on
Yes, of that topic.
on that topic? Okay. Consider proposed indemnification agreement related to the above donated land.
I was so confused with this.
I was too.
I was like, who are we indemnifying and why? I was like, are we giving the property away?
Right, right. Yeah, even just as of this afternoon, other versions emerged. And so, yeah, the town attorney and Evernorth's attorney and VLCT weighed in and kind of gave us some more things to think about. So, yeah, this will require more thought.
Val, let me see if I get this right. Evernorth wants us to indemnify them because of the retained rights we are having on the property. They don't want to be held liable if something happens to anybody, like on the trail or whatever.
Correct. Or if a piece of equipment tumbles down the bank or whatever during a maintenance or emergency operation, they don't want to be held responsible. And that's a reasonable thing. Just not sure what the appropriate mechanism and language is to accomplish it.
That's why we're paying the attorneys the big bucks to do that.
So, yeah,
So stay tuned for that one.
right.
Yeah,
But
not really anything we have information enough to act on tonight, is what you're saying.
no, it's more of an update and kind of, it'll be following the same trajectory I had as the deeds, the quitclaim deeds.
Ready? Then
And I
we
think
will-
I just wanted to take a minute to clarify the indemnification. It's Evernorth is the one sort of negotiating that, but we're putting forth a multi-million-dollar housing project that involves a lot of lenders and investors. And it's really those folks who are, it's their money, like they're going to be in first position kind of on this property. And we're just trying to get in front of that issue now, as opposed to when we're trying to actually close the project and they all say, wait, these folks who lend money and invest money are very conservative about risk. And so this is really on their behalf that we are trying to get in front of it. So just wanted to clarify that it's not, it's not us Evernorth, it's really the investors and the lenders involved with the project that are going to be looking for this.
They're gonna want it, you're just trying to get it ahead of time.
That's right. I've been doing this long enough to know that like something will come up when we're trying to start construction, but I don't want it to be this.
Well, thanks for clarifying. And another clarification is, even though I keep referring to Evernorth, it's actually Firehouse Apartments Limited Partnership.
Yes.
Yeah.
Firehouse Apartments Limited Partnership will be the owner of the property. Evernorth and Addison County Community Trust will be general partners, so we'll be co-owners of that, but it is an equity investor that is the owner for the 15 years of the tax credit compliance. And
Right.
that's probably enough for folks after 8 o'clock.
But yet the transaction is from the town of Bristol to Stony Hill Properties because they still own the property. And the idea is that once Firehouse Limited Partnership gets all of their approvals, then there'll be a closing, a transaction between them and Stony Hill.
Yes. And it potentially, because I know Stony Hill would like that transaction to happen as soon as possible, it's possible that we might actually acquire the land
Okay.
and then it would go to the limited partnership.
Oh,
when
well, that's
everything-
good to know.
So there might be an intermediate, we try and have it go directly to the partnership, but it doesn't, people usually want to get rid of their land faster than I can get out all my ducks in a row, so.
Understood. Thanks.
Okay. Anything else? Then we are going to move on. Grant authorization request, CDBG application to Vermont Community Development Program on behalf of Firehouse Apartment Limited Partnership. It just keeps going.
I know. This is very brief because I realized, so this is accessing the CDBG funds, which come to the state and then through the town of Bristol. Valerie's done a good job to a specific project. And I just wanted to have present this concept to the board. We're hoping to apply for these funds in September. And so sometime before in the next 6 weeks, we'll have to hold a noticed public hearing with this board, but I don't like that to be the first time the board hears about it. So great to get it and be able to answer any questions now. I'm happy to do that again at the official public hearing.
Any questions?
No, as long as.
In my notes that the town is required to be the applicant, and there's a lot of procedural matters that need to be paid attention to, a lot of requirements, and that Evernorth and their team have a lot of experience handling it, and that they would be expected to do most, if not all, of the heavy lifting, but there still would be some administrative responsibilities on the part of the town.
We've done these before, correct?
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Val doesn't get paid. Val gets paid for it, but we pay Val.
Well,
But if
and
I have a
there is an
But if-
opportunity for the town to have a portion of the money we're asking for go to the town to cover costs. So some costs donate some towns donate the staff time as part of the grant. I think you guys are donating land to this project. It's reasonable if sometimes it's expenses up to $5,000 or because it does take some time. I'm not allowed to do everything. So Valerie will have to do some, get in that online grant program and some accounting stuff. So if that's something the town would like to consider, just let me know so I can build it into the budget.
Would it diminish its competitiveness in any way? Because that's often a consideration.
I think because we can say the town is donating the land, that it would offset the, $5,000 up to, and again, it's not, it's nice to do an up to, and then if the town doesn't need that much money, we can spend it somewhere else in the project, but happy to build that into our budget.
You think on a multi-million-dollar project, you'll find some place to spend a couple extra thousand?
Every dollar counts.
Val, I just know how much time you spent this week doing grant stuff, so that's the only reason I say that. It's
Right.
like, so-
I would just let that determination be up to Val, what she feels comfortable in terms of asking.
Well, what I would say is I would build it in and then decide. And then decide,
Okay.
have her build it in and then decide, Val, how much time it's going to take, whether
Right.
we should be
Okay.
reimbursed for it. And that might get back to Joel's
We'll
giving
get
it for
something.
nothing.
We'll get
Well,
something.
we get
yeah.
something.
Does our town attorneys have to look this over, Valerie?
No,
Look what over.
not the grant
All these
request.
grants and all these loans and,
No.
the deeds, the
No.
deeds.
Oh, the deed, we're
All the
already
deeds,
doing that.
the first two things that we didn't vote on yet.
Ben's just doing that.
Ben's doing that.
Actually,
Ben-
the part,
Ben's the town
Evernorth,
attorney.
Evernorth and their partnership are paying for the legal costs for the housing stuff up to a certain point, but that is the agreement right now.
But not paying for the land transaction deed, just for housing or the land too.
He's doing.
Everything to a point. So as long as we don't
Hit
ask,
that point.
as long as we don't ask a ton of stuff to send back. I mean, well, it sounds like there's a lot of back and forth right now, but
I think we're still well within I just couldn't say like, I can pay whatever. I'm not allowed. I don't have the authority to say I'll
Right.
pay bills wherever. So we hit a mark and then we can come back and reconsider. But the project is paying for the town's legal fees around this work that Valerie has been talking about, the indemnification and the deed and all of those items.
Which I think we asked for. But again, I would build that in, Sam, and then Val can decide how much time it's taken and whether we should be reimbursed.
No problem. I will build that into the budget.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We need a motion, right?
To authorize the grant.
Yes.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to authorize that. Yeah, the application for the grant. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Great.
All right,
Awesome.
we're gonna move on.
Thanks, Sam.
Who seconded that?
I
Michelle.
did, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. Appreciate the update.
Oh, thank you all.
And you're getting good press too.
I've heard a
All right.
lot about it.
It's great.
It's a great
awesome to see.
project. Yeah.
Consider acceptance of deed for easement from Stoney Hill Properties to the Town of Bristol for the road, utility, construction, installation, maintenance, replacement, and repair related to the extension of Firehouse Drive and the development of Stoney Hill Business Park.
I think these are final, or pretty darn close to final. I think the,
So there's a big conflict in the wording, at least in the TA report.
Oh.
One says, in my mind, and maybe it's just me, one says we'll own the land, one says it's an easement. I mean,
it's an
are we
easement.
okay,
That they'll still own the underlying land, but it's an easement, but the town needs to demonstrate control, legal control.
okay.
Easement.
Because that's where I got confused reading through that. It said to deed the land. Well, if you deed me the land, I own it.
Right. Yeah. It's an easement.
And so it's an easement, not a deed.
Right. Similar, it'll be just like all of our other class 3 roads.
Yeah, because I thought, the other thing I thought was if they deed that, there's a considerable amount of land and under all that right away. If they deed that, they'll be short land to do what they want to do.
Right. No,
Right back into the,
underlying land.
it's
And
a more
the way
slow.
the way the properties are subdivided, they go to the center line of the road.
That was all I had for questions.
Yeah, I think they're pretty close to their final form, if not their final form. Not much went back and forth about it today over the weekend.
Now, I did have one question about the road and stormwater infrastructure. I thought we had a discussion about the stormwater and that we wouldn't be ultimately responsible for that.
For, yeah, the stormwater.
Yeah, we had a
We had a long
lengthy
discussion.
conversation. We had to be responsible for it being installed under the grant, but we didn't necessarily have to keep it afterwards.
Because I didn't want to have to replace it. I don't want the town to have something fail. I don't want the town to be on the hook to replace it. I thought we had this long discussion about the stormwater and that.
We had a conversation that it would be possible to implement a separate maintenance agreement where future maintenance could be shared with or delegated to the business park association, or if there
I
is.
think, I think you're absolutely right. That was what they came up with, was that we could,
But don't we want to do that? I don't want to like sign this and then wind up never having signed that. I mean,
Valerie, I agree with Michelle and Peter. I was under the impression I'll use right out here in North Street, and Main Street, we're responsible for the drains, and Pablo's, Shaw's and Walgreens parking lots drain into them, but they have drains in their parking lot. We're not responsible for those drains in that parking lot. I thought Firehouse Drive, the roadway, we'd be responsible for the drains that they collapse, but the ones behind, whether it's a 10,000 or 40,000 square foot building, if there's drains in those parking lots, behind those parking lots, we're not responsible for them. I was in the impression, maybe I'm dead wrong, because there's also gonna be A&R fee every year, probably to the tune of a couple of $3,000 for runoff stormwater fees.
Inspections,
Discharge.
Discharge
inspection.
permit.
I will make a note of all of these things and we can circle back at the next meeting.
And the sidewalks, the sidewalks that, and I'm sorry, I think I missed these deeds or the easements. Those are the sidewalks from Firehouse Drive all the way through the business park, correct? That we're gonna be plowing and maintaining?
Right, the separate easement for the sidewalks is the section is limited to the section of sidewalk in front of the apartments because that's part of the current firehouse across from the fire station. And that when that project was constructed and permitted, it had only a 50-foot right of way. But going into the business park is 100 feet. And so on the original Firehouse Drive area across from the fire station, there isn't enough room for the sidewalk. So it was in everybody's benefit for Stoney Hill / Firehouse Limited Partnership to grant a 15-foot easement for the sidewalk and underground utilities. So that's what that is.
I think we pushed that back by putting parking there as well. So we shoved the sidewalk further
Right.
back into
Right.
that property.
Okay, but it's still the sidewalk also in the business park itself, beyond that, beyond the apartments, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's in the other deed, the other right of way.
Okay, so if we're maintaining those, plowing them, whatever, are we also gonna have to replace them when the time comes?
Yeah,
So
they'd be
we're
part of
basically
our
taking
regular
up-
sidewalk network.
We better up our freaking sidewalk, our sidewalk.
Although it'll be
Um,
hopefully it'll be quite a while before that comes around.
No, I
Yeah,
understand
well,
that,
we were on the 100-year plan to change our sidewalks. I
but
think
yeah,
we've got that up a little bit, but
yeah, but I was gonna say, we need to plan now, for that.
So Valerie, I've heard rumor through the grapevine here in the town that there's non-authorization to put a sidewalk, I'll say right in front of the wooden fence by the rec field. There's non-authorization to put a crosswalk there to the new sidewalk leading to Heaven North and the Firehouse Apartments. Or
I can't hear you very well, Joel.
I'm sorry, I'll speak up. You know the wooden fence along the rec club property,
Yeah,
The rail.
the rail?
Mhm.
Is there going to be a crosswalk somewhere in that neighborhood to go across the Firehouse Drive to the new apartments?
that is the plan. It's not part of this project. I had intended to solicit kind of informal quotes from area engineers outlining the context and just get a ballpark cost estimate for what it would do, because it would need to be engineered. The side of the West Street side by the rec department, there's a difference in elevation and there'd be a slope and there's drainage that have to be dealt with. And it would have to be connected to the sidewalk that's terminating from Firehouse Drive. And if the community wants one of those lighted crosswalks like is down by on Main Street, then that would also need to be planned. So I was planning to get some preliminary costs to do that type of planning that maybe the town, depending on how much it is, would just choose to pay for it out of budgeted funds. And that way we would have a plan in hand for future grant application for the next cycle to actually put it out for construction separately from this project.
So a sidewalk will be on the south side of West Street along Firehouse Drive to Heaven North
Correct.
with a truncated dome, but nothing to go to on the other side.
Correct,
you're
because
saying?
right now there's no intersection with that side across from the rec club. There would need to be a new sidewalk segment constructed across that swale to where a new
I
trunk.
don't understand what you mean the swale.
there's a ditch in between the road and the existing sidewalk in front of the rec club. We put drainage in front
There
of
is?
Ed Shepherd's and we put,
Yeah, but in front of the rec field is just,
there's another, I
Parking
believe,
spot.
there's another drain
Yeah, there's the drain there.
west of,
by Eddie's.
and then there's one west of that.
Yeah, it wouldn't
way
be a
down-
simple
it's
matter
way
of
down
just
almost-
putting
way
paint
So
on
the
the road.
swales all the way from there to Eddie. So we
Yeah,
gotta
so
get through that. What Valerie's saying is we've got to get through that swale with a sidewalk, so it's gonna have to be engineered. Probably gonna end up putting in another catch basin just the other side of the sidewalk.
Or a culvert buried to let the water go through or something, but.
And the idea would be to hopefully
Spot.
piggyback off of the construction of the Firehouse Drive sidewalk at the same time, if we can, right, Val, to be able to use those resources.
Yeah, I think what you're gonna end up seeing happening is another catch basin drop inlet. Just like the bank had to do when they put their ramp in down on Main Street. They had to put a drain above the ramp so that the water didn't go out into the road.
That's
So,
asking in the comments, will the Firehouse Drive sidewalk have an accessible ramp to West Street? I mean, that would be part of our design or the engineering, right, Val?
the part that's currently part of the plan would have a typical truncated dome, I believe, a truncated dome at the intersection, whether it's sloped, I don't know.
Anything that's built now
Slope.
has to meet ADA requirements.
I expect it
Right.
would be sloped, but it just won't connect to anything at this point. And I don't know, and if for some reason codes don't allow them to do that, because it's not an intersection, and then it has to be level, then that would be part of the project for this future crosswalk, is to make that accommodation, to make that adjustment.
But isn't the idea to build the crosswalk at the same time as the sidewalk?
Ideally,
not-
that would be great, but with so many moving parts and balls in the air right now, and where the funding would come from, I cannot, I mean, it would be a great goal. But
Okay.
no, to what degree it can be accomplished. And if it can't be accomplished together, it can definitely be done at not long after. And with grants funding, if that's what's needed.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it's just something that should have been done many years ago. I mean, or at least was in the Firehouse design, was to have a crosswalk there and to have
Yeah,
to
we
build a
probably
sidewalk that goes nowhere, that you can't cross on, especially if you're going over there. Makes no sense at all to me.
We should have thought of it when we were doing the West Street project and
Yeah.
incorporated a drain for that crosswalk. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't care how good we are, we're never gonna catch them all.
So
Right.
Brett asking through the chat if he can speak.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett.
Thank you. So just to comment on Peaker's last statement, there was supposed to be a sidewalk as part of that initial project. It just was not constructed. But my question is back to the crosswalk, and I know there's some folks who have been corresponding about this, and I've intentionally stayed out of it because it doesn't really go anywhere. But it's just, I think it's I need to note that we're going to build this brand new sidewalk, and it may have the accessible approach. I don't know what the proper terminology is to West Street, or it may not, depending on what's required. And let's just say they do put one in. Until an engineering study is done, we don't even know if we would be permitted to put a crosswalk in that location, correct?
That's
Due
a
to
good
line of
point,
sight.
Brett. That's a good point, because that was the other thing I was going to put in the scope of work in my cost estimating with area engineers.
We may be required to go, I don't know, I'm just pulling a number out of the area. And we might have to go 100 feet east,
Right,
cross the
Right.
street,
that's entirely
build
possible.
another 100 feet of sidewalk on the south side of the road. That's hopefully worst case, but I'm just trying to think out loud here. And then my other question, just regarding the sidewalk project, and I think I did ask this in a meeting many months ago, but is it a part of this project to install the crosswalk and needed infrastructure from the new sidewalk on Firehouse Drive to access the public entrance of the fire station?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Okay. That answers all my questions. Thank you.
And Brett raised a good point about the site distance. At the very least, a study would validate that it's safe to put the crosswalk where we're talking about it. And it would certainly alert us if it's not. So we'd want to know if
Maybe,
do anything.
well, is there any chance that it would help us reduce the speed limit?
Good
That
question.
that would increase our ability to shorten the distance, the site distance.
Mm.
I don't, that's probably not, just because we want to put in a crosswalk, probably not gonna be enough to.
Yeah, I wouldn't put a lot of eggs in that basket. I'd be
Yeah.
concerned still about public health, knowing that how motorists actually drive, regardless
So-
of the speed limit.
So given Brett's question about the potential for it maybe not being able to line up with the sidewalk that the Stoney Hill project's going to build, is it possible, even though it may not align in terms of the construction of a crosswalk there because of how the complexities involved, can we at least get an engineering study before they build their sidewalk or before that sidewalk's built to know where we're actually going to hit with a crosswalk? Is that a possibility, Val?
It's a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
I
on
think,
my list and
think we
I'd hope
need
to have something tonight. I'd hope to have cost estimates tonight so that the board could decide whether to proceed with just going ahead and hiring somebody to do it with
Right.
for funding we currently have available. But too many other balls in the air right now.
Yeah,
So-
I think we really need to find out where that can cross, as Brett and Ian say, where that can cross the road, because if that sidewalk needs to turn, we don't want it coming out to the road and then have to tear out brand new sidewalk, because that will
Right.
not look good.
No, I don't see tearing out brand new sidewalk. I think what Brett isn't.
Well,
is
you'd have to tear out
sidewalk
the panel that went
to
to
the
the
east.
pavement.
Yeah.
Because I would assume that any contractor they hire to put that sidewalk in is gonna go right to the pavement, assuming that's where the crosswalk is gonna go. So we'd end
Right.
up cutting out that end panel and
right,
truncated
right.
dome and going back. So I
Right.
would rather not be that board.
Okay.
Right. And we also have, we're with that, where the sidewalk's going to be constructed, we have that property line right there with the Nelson property, correct? So
Yeah.
we can't go, can we go, if we need to go east, can we
It's
go
in
east?
the right of
if we-
way,
Okay,
but that would need to be planned out too for drainage.
exactly.
It's gonna be
Right.
problematic because it's their lawn and their driveway, and I mean, it's all
Right.
stuff that's gonna take time, but at least if we know, even if we don't have the ability to construct it at the same time, if we know that's where
Yeah.
it's gotta go, we can make the appropriate adjustments to the firehouse sidewalk.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I would,
And I'd
like I
recommend-
said, I don't wanna be the town that cuts out brand new sidewalk, because we'll get plenty of publicity on that one. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
and I'd
Brett.
More
recommend, I mean,
questions?
say that.
Brett's
Brett.
got another question.
Thank you. And excuse the expression, I don't mean to beat a dead horse here, but it's, and I'm sure everybody on this phone call right now is well aware of this. But I just think it's unfortunate and such a waste of resources and tax dollars that not only are we doing this now, this new Firehouse Drive sidewalk, but we just constructed a new sidewalk, 2 years ago on the other side of the street. And that we didn't think of this to tie this together at this moment in time when this Firehouse Drive project started. Because I have the same concern speakers raised, that I just hope we don't end up having to dig up something. And of course, the idea of having to go eastbound on the south side of the road is certainly could be a difficult thing to do as well. But I just felt the need to say that out loud. So I'm going to stop. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett.
It could be that the project designers of the West Street project didn't consider a crossing at that time because there wasn't a sidewalk or isn't a sidewalk to connect to now. So that's probably
Right.
why.
But we knew it. I mean,
That's right.
it's shame on us. We knew that it was going there. We should have taken into consideration the drainage, but hindsight's always 20/20. I know what I should have
Right.
done yesterday a whole lot better than I did the day before yesterday.
And
But if
to
we
speak
find that
to,
it should have been a different location.
right, to speak to the speed thing, if we have a similar crosswalk to what we've put in on Main Street in terms of push button flashing, that's going to help us with speed reduction coming over the hill. I mean, you're going to obviously the engineers have to figure out in terms of what you're supposed to be doing coming up over that hill and when you reach the top of it. But having a lighted crosswalk has really helped downtown in terms of car stopping. So I think that's at minimum, that would be the minimal amount type of crosswalk we'd want to put in with user control, pedestrian control controls with flashing lights, not just hoping that the cars stop as they come over the hill.
Okay, so I've got some questions to follow up for our next meeting about the stormwater maintenance plan or maintenance agreement.
Just clarification of what we thought we had discussed prior.
Right. Okay.
Onward?
Yeah.
Consider request that the town adopt the Declaration of Inclusion.
So hopefully folks had a chance to review the info that was posted online from the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, and language that has been proposed and adopted by several other communities. And many other communities have been thinking about this and acting on this for a number of years already, and have taken different approaches to addressing this general area of concern.
So this is a practice that we're already legally supposed to be doing, correct? And
Generally, yeah.
All we're doing is stating that we're gonna do what we're legally supposed to do.
Right, right.
It's a deeper commitment to it.
Yeah. And to be,
Well, how much deeper can you be than everybody should be treated equal? I mean, that's.
Equal opportunity,
Yeah, I mean, so I really don't see it as an issue to adopt this. That's my personal feeling.
you don't feel it's necessary to adopt?
I don't feel it's a problem to adopt it. I mean, I think
okay.
it's something that we're already supposed to be doing. It's the law.
Right,
So why is it a problem to make it our policy?
yeah.
Done. Well, that was easy.
Yeah, so the VLCT has a model resolution form. I don't have anything written up for the select board to sign, but
Why don't we do something for next meeting and then we can
Yeah.
And we can read it and sign it.
sign it next meeting?
I think my question about this would be, knowing that other towns have had committees work on wording of this, like, and Middlebury really hashed theirs out and had a group work on it. Is there any reason we wouldn't want to get input from the community if people were interested in, instead of just boilerplate accepting something, would we want to have our own wording? Is my
Well, I'm
question.
just thinking if all the other towns have already beat the horse, why not use one of theirs?
Well, it's not so much that they
Yeah.
beat the horse, they've adopted, some have just adopted the declaration as it was proposed, and others
Right.
have put their own
Yep.
community concern on it. So is that something we want to do here in Bristol, or do we think that there's even folks who would want to? be
Well, there's
part of it?
obviously somebody who does, because they're the one that brought it to
Well,
our
Right,
attention.
we have one person.
Yeah, I mean, I try to treat people the way I want to be treated, and I don't treat anybody any different regardless of who they are or what they are. And I think that's all this is saying.
You treat me badly all the time.
Yeah, well, that's different. But I mean, I just don't, it's the law.
Mhm.
So why is it a problem? Just,
Well, it's obviously a problem, we have problems all over the
Yeah.
nation, but, I don't know if we really need a committee, if there's a bunch of people out there that wanna sit on it. How about it?
I mean, all it's gonna do is kick it down the road, and it's gonna be
Right.
something we keep revisiting.
I mean, this
That's
thing,
my
once we
concern.
create it, it can't be revised.
Right.
Correct.
I think we have Valerie just show us what the VLTC said.
I'm trying to put it on screen,
It's in here.
trying to share a screen.
Well, it's also in your town administrator's report too.
It is,
I think
and it's
that's fine.
online.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, if we feel that it needs to be more personalized, similar to what other towns did, we could work toward that. But I
Yeah.
think the current
The
language that the
basics.
VLCT supplied, I think is very good. Middlebury went a step further because they have a committee with volunteers sort of looking at sort of a bigger picture. And I don't know if that's something we're interested in or if the community is interested in. But that's also something that could happen down the line a little bit too, even if this was signed, in the next 2 weeks or so.
Right.
I agree.
I just don't see why treating people right is an issue. It's the way it ought to be.
Right.
Right. But what it's demonstrating is that, even if it's the law, it's not a visible thing that you're often thinking about or talking about, especially as residents of the town. And so this just demonstrates to people that it brings it to the forefront so people can really see that and sort of understand it and begin to talk about it, which is great. I mean, that's what we want.
Right. And I think as we go forward, when people are looking at communities in Vermont to move to, this is one thing that I'm hearing that they're asking about. So
Yeah.
I think it's important that we have this.
Yeah, and I agree with taking an incremental approach rather than putting this
Yeah.
on together on a sideline or to delay it.
I like that idea.
So what's your pleasure with this document you see before you? Is this where we want to start?
I say yes.
Then
Okay.
make it formal.
That I make a motion that we accept the, what's it called, equity and inclusion document as it stands.
Second,
I
Further
would
discussion?
recommend one change.
with
Go
one
ahead.
change.
I've been trying for a long time to swap out the word sex for the word gender. Just replace the word sex with gender. It means the same thing, but I think it's more intentional.
What do we have? It says sex, gender, identity. Is gender different than gender identity?
It is. It is.
Okay.
Yes. For some people, sex
Yeah, I
has
see.
other meanings.
I see what you're saying.
That's right.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
Yep, that's fine.
You're just getting rid of the word, you're not,
No, she's going.
Replacing it with
Swap it.
gender.
so it's going to say gender.
Gender.
Gender identity.
Gender identity, okay, gotcha,
Right,
gotcha.
yeah. And I think that's a really important distinction too. And I think that helps amplify the difference between the two.
Yep.
Whereas the other word, just, I don't know.
Could have a different
Yeah.
meaning.
Yeah.
No,
Evokes
seriously,
different
it could.
thoughts.
I mean, that's,
Of course.
no,
No.
when I use that word, I'm not typically talking about gender.
I'm not.
Too much
No.
information.
Too much information. Stop. Don't go down there.
Yeah. Well,
It's
I
not-
mean, it just drives Valerie's point home is all.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a necessary word.
Yeah.
It's just
So
traditional.
we'll,
With the one change.
to accept this document with that change, Darla?
Yes.
Any further discussion? Ian, you're all right with that with your second?
Yep, absolutely.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried.
Great, thank you. I'll have a cleaned up copy for signature, letterhead, all
Super.
that stuff.
Oh, consider adoption of proposed
seconded
water
that?
ordinance amendment.
I did.
Thank you.
I did.
We're skipping that one. Designated,
I just got a question on that.
Yep.
Valerie, so the development or water line dug tomorrow on plastic, doesn't say they have to put in tracer wire.
No, but if they've made an application, they can put that in. Because that's what you did with the last one, right, Val? You required that if they were using plastic, they put in, he said if somebody digs a water line tomorrow and they put plastic, they aren't required to put a tracer wire in. And I said, if they do the application, you will put in as a requirement that they have to
Absolutely.
put in a tracer wire.
Right, right.
My only other thing on the water ordinance I'd like to see, Valerie, is any water installed, because like up here at Robert Fuller's place where we stopped with Chris, he went right by the design which the planning commission approved of. And I think we need to take that part of the design out of the planning commissions. And I'll say take it out of their hands, but there's gotta be something that says the design of water utilities must be approved by the town's water commissioners. I'd like that in the ordinance, something. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, it was a,
Chris says-
the issue there is they approved the preliminary plans. It wasn't an engineered document. It or maybe it was an engineered document, but it wasn't, it didn't have specifications.
Right.
Didn't say trace wire or any of that, so
Yeah.
he didn't break the law, because we don't have that in our ordinance yet. And he went by, okay, they approved my design, Robert's design, so he started putting it in.
It did get approved by the Water Commission, the proposal, and the plan did have plastic wire on it, or plastic piping. I think nobody at the time was attentive to the detail. We could have required it then as part of it.
Yeah.
We just didn't.
Okay. All right, okay.
That was our bad.
There again, there's our hindsight again.
Yeah, it's getting a lot of.
We're getting really good at this hindsight thing. Oh, designate authorized representative to request ARPA funds.
I can just make the motion, Val.
Okay.
I'm fine with
Okay.
you
Well, did you see
reading it.
the draft motion in the?
I did, and I was gonna read that.
Okay.
Or Tasha, you can just copy what's in there. I move that the town of Bristol accept its allocation of coronavirus local physical recovery funding, CLFRF, from the U.S. Treasury, along with the award terms and conditions and assurances of compliance with the civil rights requirements that are requirements of accepting these funds, and that we appoint town administrator Valley Capel to serve as the town's authorized representative as required by the coronavirus local physical recovery funding, CLFRF, from the U.S. Treasury, to sign the award terms and conditions and assurances of compliance with the civil rights requirements by no later than July 15th, 2021. And that is the longest run-on sentence.
Josh, I won't ask you to repeat that.
Yes.
Well,
Ian seconded that.
No, Joel did.
Joel did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm trying to find it. So are you talking about the document that's on the website?
It's in my
the
TA report.
TA report.
Okay, 'cause I'm- okay.
Item 6.8.
6.8.
Further
Okay,
discussion.
that whole thing under the recommendation part, right?
Yep.
Right, where it says it's quoted, where it says starts with I move.
Perfect. Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Another job for Valerie. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You don't get a vote, Valerie, sorry. Motion carried.
You could give it to me. I could handle those funds.
Oh, congratulations on your new appointment. Coin drop application, Bristol Rescue Squad, Friday, July 2nd at multiple locations.
So moved.
And we have Bruce's comments on the application that he also supports the application, provided that appropriate signs are deployed and participants wear appropriate traffic vests.
So moved with Bruce's recommendations.
Very good. Do I have a second? Michelle
Apparently not.
seconded it.
Okay, good.
So they're doing it this Friday night because we're not doing the July 4th parade, I see.
They're doing it in the evening?
Yeah.
5 days.
So they're gonna be at West Prayer Rock, they're gonna be on North Street, and they're gonna be.
West Street.
West Street somewhere.
That's when the fireworks are happening, correct?
Yes.
Well, fireworks, yeah, they're happening that night, but they start later.
Yeah, they'll start.
No, that's right. Okay.
Further discussion?
My only concern is to make sure they're off the road before they start the fireworks, which they should be if they're not starting fireworks till dark.
Yeah.
It's 8:48 now.
Do you want that in there?
8 o'clock, it's not dark.
They should be done. with it.
Okay,
They should be done.
all right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. A little delayed there. You need faster internet.
I've got
Oppo-
gigabit at my house.
He's probably got fiber in his
Yeah.
house.
I got
Opposed,
fiber. I have
nay?
the fastest. Yes.
Motion carried. Approval of,
We're skipping those.
we're skipping those.
Yeah.
Right, they'll be next meeting.
All right. Authorized accounts payable warrants and liquor licenses. Do we have the total warrants for Tasha?
Did you get the new one, Tasha?
There's an updated one.
Yeah, I have it. It's
47,690, 38.
I'm glad so, because it doesn't have a mound.
It's on the last page that you signed.
All right. Select board roundtable.
Shelf on the first page.
Ian, come on, guys. Ian,
Okay, focus. This is to do, I've ordered the infrastructure, the benches and picnic tables and trash cans, and they're on their way to us in various states. So there'll be everything's going to be delivered to the town garages, public works, and there's like some bike racks coming, and then there's another bike rack coming, and they seem to be shipping at a different time. So that they're on their way, and you should start to see them pop up in on the park and in on Main Street within probably the next few weeks. And I'm still working on that was sort of correlated. This is correlated too. Still working on getting the plantings in the intersection. I've got a little bit behind on that, and it's also been quite hot, so it's been difficult to get out there and figure out the planting plan. But that's still happening, and hopefully there will be some flowers in there at some point.
anything else?
No, but we need to have a discussion about garbage cans on the park before they get put on the park.
Yeah, I think, I have to agree with Michelle. I think that we made the decision to put signs up, pack in, pack out, and we can't just go and put cans there.
I mean,
It
we
needs
tried
to,
to
it
put
needs to be, it needs to be a board decision. But
And-
that's,
Okay.
And we tried to put cans back on there and it just didn't.
I mean, all our other parks are that way. Bartlett's Falls is that way. The trail up to the ledges is that way. I've just been brainstorming on, and then it's another cost for us to have R&L pick it up. So I think if we want to put them on there, we need to have a discussion about it, but we can do that at another time unless you're open to, you want to discuss it now.
My battery's running out.
Okay, Michelle, we're gonna lose everybody when her battery goes dead. But Ian, no offense. I just think that it's one of those
Sure.
things that it's a board decision. And
Oh yeah,
and,
no, I'm not expecting to put them on without a board decision.
Okay,
But I have to say that, there was a trash can on there that the board decided to put on, and it wasn't a board decision to take it off. It was just taken off by Eric without consulting the board. And so we need to have some
discussion.
sort of,
Yeah.
a discussion
No.
about that. So it's going forward.
Yep.
But I'm happy to do that.
perfect. You all set?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks.
Michelle? Michelle's good. Darla?
I just wanted to make a statement that after our tour the other night, last Monday, it really brought home for me. I spent so much time in the village. I don't spend a lot of time going to some of those off roads that we did. And it really brought home for me some of the hidden and not so hidden poverty in our community. And that's a lens I'll be using going forward when we make some of these decisions. I think sometimes we can all get caught up in how we live, and that's not true for everyone in our town and our village. So that was really important for me to take away from that.
All set?
Yeah.
Joel?
Just Bruce, question. I know we get a new police truck. Did we get a new police car, or did you just take the white emblems off? I see a black one driving around.
The oldest car, we took the vinyl off.
Okay, so, and is the truck on the road yet, ready to use, or we're using it?
Truck is ready. We're just waiting for the lettering to arrive.
So are you gonna letter the black one when you do the truck too?
The oldest one?
The car.
No,
So
That's
we're-
scheduled to go, correct? Is
Correct.
that,
correct. At some point, it will be scheduled to go.
Well, some point, is that 6 months or a year or what?
I don't know yet.
I mean, what's the cost of letter? I think it ought to say police on it, Bristol PD on it.
We can,
It doesn't say anything on it, correct?
right.
Bruce, are we
It has
using it?
nothing on it right now. We were going to use it as a backup vehicle to save the mileage on the two newer vehicles.
Oh, okay, the black one that doesn't have anything on it got replaced by the truck that you haven't put on the road.
Correct.
Oh, okay, sorry, okay.
The truck is
I know
on
the
the
truck,
road.
I've seen the truck.
It's on the road, but
It's on the road.
Just doesn't have.
the lettering hasn't showed up yet. So
No, I just thought the black one was the second car, not the
No.
third. Okay. And we're not keeping 3 parked cars out there, people. So they're selling it, so get out there, they got 3 cars now for 2 hours. Okay, that's all I got.
I believe I'm all set. Administrators report, Valerie.
No, I know that my report was a little thin on updates, but I'll save them for the next time.
Okay. Other business, correspondence reports. Nothing? Do we have anything for executive session?
One brief personnel matter.
All right. Just the board?
Correct, just the board.
I make a motion, we enter into executive session to discuss personnel matters per 1 VSA section 313A3.
I have a second.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye, raise your hand.
Aye. Good night, Jimmy.
Opposed?
Good to see you.
See you guys.
Motion carried.
Good night, everybody.
You guys had personnel matters before, right? Because I wanted to add that.
Yes, I did.
6:30 to 7 with Mike Menard invited to participate.
And did you have who moved to enter executive session in second, you know?
Michelle.
I second it.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sasha.
Thanks, Sasha.